All right, 5 o'clock on a Monday. You know what time that brings. Let's do this. Let's hit the books, part of the Hammer Betting Network, alongside the man, the myth, the legend himself, Joey Knish. Producer extraordinaire Zach Phillips out today. Jason C. filling in nicely for him. I am merely Brad Powers. Before we recap NFL draft, before we get to a first, that's right, first, the markets are pretty much widely available. Season win total best bet. Before we get to all your questions and concerns, let's first pay the bills here. Let's remind everybody that Hit the Books is brought to you by BetStamp. The easiest way to improve as a sports bettor is to use multiple sports books and always getting the best odds. We recommend using an odds comparison tool like BetStamp. BetStamp compares odds across every sports book for games, futures, and player props. You can save time and money by checking BetStamp before you bet. Download the app today. If you're looking to sign up for a new sportsbook account, please check out the offers available at BetStamp. At betstamp.app/hitthebooks or hit the link in the description. If you sign up through this page, it does help support the show. Knish, haven't talked to you since the draft started. How was the draft? Was it kind to you? What's your thoughts on the Lions? Hit me with some of your thoughts from the draft.
Well, I'm glad to not be a Falcons fan. I'll say that first and foremost. There with a little that was probably the wildest pick I can remember in the top 10 in terms of like shock and awe. City of Detroit, people loved it. I will say I couldn't imagine. I actually went down early, a couple of days just to kind of check out the scene around. Did not stick around until the draft time because of the massive humanity that was coming in, but just checked out the scene a little bit. So I think all-time draft attendance record. Lions draft, liked needed corners, liked the first two picks, liked the last couple of picks, Mickey Wingo and that guard from that. In the middle, I'm not gonna lie, it's the first time in my life I've talked to some Lions where it's like you can kind of trust the organization. I don't know. We took some tackle out of Canada. Looks like God's gift to tackles. Never played real football before, so I don't know. We'll see on that. And Vaki out of Utah, safety, running back, special team combo seemed a bit high for me. Overall, I didn't mind it, and the Holmes just kind of earned the trust, respect level, so got to give it to him.
How'd you do portfolio wise on the draft?
You know what? The bets that I had went well. Thankfully to some connect of a show I might appear on every once in a while during football season on a different station. Had some good sources that hit me up with a couple like right hour before the draft on both days. But I didn't have. It was probably my smallest overall risk liquidity portfolio in many, many years. So the bets I did get in went well. But the amount of risk and the amount of it was just very insignificant compared to drafts of a couple of years ago. So how about yourself?
Yeah, I tailed the one guy that I trust in the NFL. He didn't do so hot. I mean, it wasn't a big loser, but when you bet the NFL draft, you expect to win. It's always how much do I win here? It's never, am I going to lose? So I was disappointed in that. I mean, I'll give a shout out. He killed it. No surprise. Hitman won me some money. So he didn't have a lot for me, but what he did give me won. So that's all I care about. So shout out, tip of the cap for the Hitman. Won me some money. Not a big win, but tough. I mean, obviously tough to get down as much as what it was 3-4 years ago. Not as much available as 3-4 years ago. And then you got more people in the marketplace that are moving stuff earlier than usual. So it's went from a possibility of being a big winner every year to probably small winner.
Yep, I agree. Just kind of the life cycle of kind of a number of these niche markets. I know some guys in other niche markets that have kind of seen the same thing happen over the last few years. So just another rough one. I know. Did you? I see our boy Trevor. Do you get any down on that Shedeur number 1 pick for next year? I know you're Coach Prime and Sanders family lover there.
Yeah, no, I want the no on that of it, But I'll be honest with you. Shedeur's a good quarterback. I'm not saying he should be the number 1 pick in the draft, but he's a pretty good quarterback. Obviously needs to get rid of the ball this year. I mean, he took way too many sacks. I know the offensive line in front of him wasn't great. They totally rebuild it. I still don't think this year's offensive line is great. I think it's better than last year, but I still have my doubts there. Colorado spring game. Obviously, I'm trolling. I mean, people don't understand it. It gets a reaction. So I tweet something good about Colorado, no reaction. Tweet something bad or making fun of the attendance or anything Coach Prime related, negative, it gets a ton of traction. So I don't know. The spring game was a tough look because the weather was bad. They didn't have any running backs. They are getting running backs in the portal. I like a couple of the kids that they got. I stand by. You and I are head to head, and I stand by my under 5.5. I think it's a 5-7 team.
Yeah, and we talked about that last week. I did maybe a little buyer's remorse on that. I didn't think they'd have as many portal outs as they did. I thought it would just be kind of this inflow of continuous talent, but they've had a little bit more of an exodus than I saw coming. They are getting some more guys in, as you said. It's just, and I've read all your, you've been doing the spring game threads, which I enjoy very much with the quick hitters. It's a trenches problem for them. And it was last year. Yeah. And it's like the portal is not mass portal is usually not the way to fix the trenches for many programs. Unless you're the cream of the crop and paying top dollar. The best guy, they're just one. There's not that many elite trench guys, to go around there. And two, they're getting bought up. I mean, Bud Elliott's talked about SEC, poaching a few defensive tackles that are out there. You see a Michigan State, one of their premium DTs goes in the portal. Who's he looking? He's visiting Miami, and you're going up against.
He might go to Colorado. One of them.
Yeah,
guys.
I saw he was on the list, but that's the type of programs you're then going up against that you have to spend the money. And so, it's like how much. I know Colorado doesn't have the war chest as some of these other places, so it's tough. And you know what? Like usually, you've seen the great programs. They develop the trenches over time. They get it rolling, and then it keeps rolling. That's how Harbaugh got to a national title level after many years, is getting the offensive line and the defensive line to where it's like too deep with elite players. They're half. They're not even halfway to on the first deep. So, just could be a bit of a. I do like some of their talent, but. I think they're just too light in the trenches. What else stuck out to you as far as big spring game things that you weren't expecting?
Oh, wow. I mean, I'm about halfway done. I've seen about 30. I'll be done by the next time we talk next Monday. So I have a lot of post spring game done. I've focused mainly on, I think I've watched the top 15 teams in my power ranks with the exception of maybe LSU, which I'll watch after the show. Generally speaking, Georgia was probably the one that got a lot of the traction as far as comments, because I'm not using hyperbole. It was one of the best spring games I've ever watched from a physicality aspect. The ones played the whole game. I mean, they just alternated every series, ones versus ones, twos versus twos. You never see that. I mean, the Heisman favorite, Carson Beck, who's the Heisman favorite, threw it 46 times, played the whole game. I mean, it was very high quality stuff. And obviously, they're as deep as any team. So, I mean, if you watch one spring game, watch Georgia. If you just like college football and want a good thing to watch, it was very physical. They got after it. They're number one. I just trust them more than Ohio State, specifically at quarterback with Carson Beck. And offensive line's better. Just overall, I just trust them. So that was probably my biggest takeaway was that was they rubber stamped it. They are going to be my preseason number one team.
Yeah, and I would agree with they've definitely got a more difficult pathway than some years past here, but it seems like they're on another level. And it's one of those where you can take a loss. You're still getting in. I mean, one loss.
They can take two losses with that schedule.
So, have you considered any Georgia? I know the prices are short. Any Georgia national title stuff?
I just that market. I'm not when you got to win 3 games. I just rather money line roll over that unless there's just a mistake in the market. I haven't got to that point. I'm also anxious to see how some of these teams can I get a better price after they lose? Because obviously, In years past, the team loses, they move the odds significantly. They shouldn't be moving them too much this year because they're still going to get in. I mean, a team loses one game, they're still in. Georgia's probably going to lose 2 games, still in. So I'm wondering if a market after a loss, because the road schedule is difficult. It's at Alabama, it's at Ole Miss, it's at Texas. They're probably not going to sweep the board there. I'd rather wait for a price like that to come along. I mean, I'll ask you this. I mean, if we use this year's format last year, I mean, how confident are you Michigan having to play Georgia after beating Alabama and Washington? How many rosters are able to do it? 3 games, 4 games? Georgia's one of them. Ohio State, maybe. I don't know. There's probably one program right now where I can say, yep, they can win 3 games in a playoff, and that's Georgia.
Yeah, I'm with you. I see the onion. Honestly, I remember there was initially, now this is months ago when they first came out, some 5-1. I would bet a 5 to. I see Onion Man there with a 470.
Yeah, that's okay. You can make worse bets this offseason. Plus 470. Obviously, he's shopping pretty good there. That's got to be out of 10. Look, I'll say this to anybody. If you shop 10, 12 books, you get the absolute best price in the market. You can't do – you can make a lot worse bets. So, yeah, plus 470. Not bad. Again, I think they'll probably lose at some point because the schedule's that difficult.
Yeah.
And I'd rather bet them then. I'm trying to think if there's any other things. We'll get to one part of there was one win total best bet. I watched the spring game. I'm like, yeah, I'm not buying this team. We'll get to that. That'll be the best bet. Knish doesn't even know yet. So it's going to be news to him. He's probably worried.
Four people text me today and was like, what's the win total best bet? I haven't even talked to Powers. Tune into the show here. It's a tease. I'm trying to be a professional here. So.
Yeah, you're not going to disagree. You're not going to be wild about the price. Got to lay some juice, but it's going to move, obviously, after the show. So, we need to bet it because the team – needs a lot in the portal, and I don't think there's any quality left in the portal right now. That'll be my biggest takeaway. Portal closes tomorrow, and then we'll get to the questions. I was hearing all through spring long, it's going to be a lot of high-quality players in the portal. I haven't seen it yet, unless we get a bunch of grad transfers throughout the summer, which I also question. I mean, not a lot of high-quality instant impact starters have hit the portal. Have you seen anybody that really moves the needle? Outside of maybe 4 or 5 guys, but that's about it.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think for the most part, now most places have their NIL up enough to kind of be able to pay the top of their premium guys. So I think the guys you've seen jump in, and I'll use Michigan as an example here, is they had their, maybe third cornerback there, DJ Waller. He jumps in and gets an offer from Kentucky because Kentucky needs Kentucky basically says, here's a starting job and here's more money. And so it's that kind of guy. It's those guys who are on maybe the fringe of a starting job, or maybe the which is making depth in college football really hard to come by because you have to pay your roster now, and then if you've got some guys that other teams are valuing higher, that you can go and get them. So I agree with you though, like the superstar, guys change and everything. It's not like, college basketball, we've seen like every player in the country is a portal, college football, it does seem like a lot of schools at least have their compensation down where they can retain the top talent. And it's kind of that next level of guy that's shopping around for a better deal.
Guys, we waited long enough. Let's get to the comments. Appreciate it. RW Fan 23 with the music, synonymous with CBS College Football. Speaking of that, I'm going to be a CBS College Football Big Ten, strictly Big Ten. The music, synonymous with the SEC for 30 years now. It's going to be Big Ten this fall. DT plus the points. Talking BG, obviously my alma mater. Yeah, no surprise. No one from the Falcons got drafted. In fact, their two best guys on defense transferred out. One went to A&M, one went to Maryland. So I don't see anybody on this year's roster, probably draft material. RW Fan 23 also in the chat. Thoughts on SMU? Yeah, win total 7.5, 8.5. I'm seeing quite a few of these already where you got a win discrepancy of like a win. I bet over 7.5. Not one of my favorite bets, but I thought it was a little short. I'll meet you in the middle. I think it should be like 8, but that's a team that lost a little bit in the portal.
So someone on the network, I won't say who, texts me over the weekend and says he's got a guy who wants all he can get on Preston Stone to win the Heisman at 150 to 1.
He didn't even play in the spring. He's hurt.
And so I was like, what? He's like, should I book it or what do you think? And I was like, I mean, they'd have to go undefeated.
Yeah, and they're not in a new conference in the ACC. No,
that's what I just like. I don't. I mean, am I looking like if I'm him? Do I want to book? Was it Preston Stone's dad? I mean, do I want to book 150? But no, I mean, what number you're gonna need to bet Preston Stone Heisman? I said 500 to 1.
Yeah, 500 to 1 was the first answer that came to mind for me. You can find last I did the Heisman, this is like over a month ago. I shopped maybe $8. 250 to 1 was the highest. It was circa. Maybe it's higher now. But yeah, me 500 to 1.
Yeah, that's why I just like you have zero margin for error, and even if I mean, yeah, I just don't know. Again, that maybe a buy on SMU. I agree with you, but Heisman, I think I don't even think Preston Stone's that great. That's the problem. Like if he was that like elite level, absolute insane talent, then maybe you talk about him putting up video game numbers and going on a run. But I'm not that much of a Preston Stone guy.
Yeah. Over 7.5, I bet it. Not one of my favorite, but that of the two, 7.5, 8.5, I prefer over on that one. Teeks in the chat, Irish A&M following the spring game. I think the line should be right around pick. I think Notre Dame's a little bit better, but obviously we're talking. I'm waiting. Honestly, you're going to say this is pretty. It shouldn't matter much. I'm waiting for the start time. I don't want Notre Dame if it's an early start time in the Texas heat. I think they'll struggle with that. If it's a night game, even though people think, oh, the crowd will be that much better, I think that would actually help Notre Dame with a night game, not dealing with 90 degrees and humidity of Texas afternoon on your first game where you'll be cramping up. I think would be an issue, but I think it should be right around pick. I see a couple books are starting to open up more week 1 lines. I see Texas A&M favored by 1.5, 2. I really like Notre Dame at +3. I would like Texas A&M at +3. Not breaking news there. Have you? I know more and more books are opening up some week 1, not a full slate, but maybe 10, 12 games. Have you bet anything in that market yet?
No, I did have that argument with a Tamu guy who I bet with, saying I thought Notre Dame should be a short fave. He thought A&M should be a short fave. But I agree. That's one of those kind of need 3 either side there as far as looking to be one. And I will, that that the other game was I know some people were talking North Dakota State there. I was actually looking to hope it got bet down and back on some Colorado, but I'm gonna have to see a little bit more. I'll wait till the fall there and see if the number comes down before I want to actually back Coach Prime in that one.
It's in the weeds. North Dakota State's best wide receiver just hit the portal, so that's something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, they've been suffering quite a talent exodus in the Dakotas over the last 2 years.
Yeah, I bet North Dakota State, but I'm not wild about that one right now. I need to see some more there. I think Colorado obviously deserves to be favored. I'd make it maybe Colorado 6-ish. So do with that what you may. Friend of the show, Bud Elliott, said Julian Saying for the Buckeyes could win the job from what he's heard. Thoughts? I saw Julian Saying in person. That's not good news. I can put it that way. I go back. He just does not have. He's obviously a true freshman. I know he's a 5-star, but he does not have like Cam Newton size. I mean, just little. And I just go back to this. He was on Alabama's roster. Kalen DeBoer kind of like no-showed him. Didn't really contact him much. So I trust Kalen DeBoer when it comes to offense and evaluating quarterbacks. I saw in my own eyes. He didn't scream, this guy needs to start as a true freshman day one, even though I'm not a fan of the 2 quarterbacks ahead of him. I know you don't have to do much with this Ohio State team that is built around the quarterback position, but that's not good news. What are you hearing with the Buckeyes? My biggest takeaway was I don't think they have a national championship quarterback on the roster.
Yeah, I agree. I don't listen. I'm not going to tell you Will Howard's the greatest. I think in terms of what they're trying to do now, which I don't know. I don't know why. I know a few losses to Michigan kind of scatterbrained the whole, but them changing their whole offensive philosophy to go from CJ Stroud and this insane passing offense to going last year to try and be more, to going this year to be even more like physical and ground and pop. It's not what I would have done. I thought they just, kind of ran into, they had a couple of bad defenses that misaligned with, the CJ Stroud, having offenses. So I would be, listen, Bud's obviously very connected. I don't think you can win a national championship with Julian, unless Sain's a lot better than with Julian or a true freshman Aaron Noel. The type of quarterback that you need, or the level you have to be, kind of walk in as a true freshman and lead a team to a national title. I don't know. I would be surprised at least if Howard didn't get at least the first cut at it. I mean, maybe if he's not, but I mean, he's been proven over many years. So yeah, that would shock me.
They did win a Big 12 championship game with him at quarterback at Kansas State.
Yep.
Onion Man, Broncos better hope they don't play Georgia next year. Funny. Thoughts on, that was just when you thought you'd seen enough terrible draft picks with Penix at 8. I don't know what Denver's doing. Oof.
Man,
it's bad.
Do you think, I mean, we'll never know. Do you think he would have went in the first round if they didn't take him?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
Yeah, his over-under was what, like 34.5?
Yeah, right.
And there was not money bet on the under, meaning he would go first round. There wasn't. Penix did get some love, that 24, 48 hours leading up to it.
Yeah.
I think his draft position at Circa was 32.5. A lot of under money came in there. But Bo Nix, Mr. Checkdown. Wow. I know that they watch it and they scout it, but how do they really watch it and scout it? I'm talking these front offices and watching college football in general. I just don't see it. It just seems like they watch the 4 or 5 playoff teams, and I get it; those are technically the most talented teams, but they just I don't know. It seems lazy front offices, except with the exception of. And I tweeted this on draft night. It just amazes me the teams that draft 10, 15 spots lower every single draft, and yet they have better draft classes. And you just feel like, yep, that makes sense. I'm talking the Steelers, the Eagles, the Vikings, the Packers, the Ravens. Every time they're drafting the 20s. The who?
The Lions now.
You
got
to trust them, though. They hit it out of the park last year, and a lot of people questioned it. Yeah, I thought they did a good job. That they get guys that from big time programs with a lot of experience. We'll see. Make sure you guys are hitting that in the chat as far as hitting the like button. Scrolling down here. Yeah. Speaking of the draft, we talked about this. Shador, even money to be pick 1. Give me the no max bet. It is a joke there. Speaking of teams that did well in the draft, I think your boy Harbaugh did it, and the front office there did a good job with the Chargers. I couldn't believe the Charger fan base hated the Joe Alt pick. You guys are idiots. I asked a couple guys, how old are you? 5? I mean, it's not fantasy football team. And you got a guy that's going to be a 10-year starter at tackle, whether it's right tackle or left tackle. I love Harbaugh's comment. Awesome comment. We consider offensive linemen to be weapons. I don't know. I trust Harbaugh. So
I'm with you. I thought they did a mostly reasonable job. I mean, that roster needed like a complete over. They had a bunch of high paid vets on there that weren't playing. They had aging guys. They kind of needed a total overturn here, and they've done some of it, but I think they're probably at least another year into it.
Ryan in the chat, spring game tweets. Who's impressed me? Who's been the biggest disappointment? One of the biggest disappointments is going to be an under bet at the end of the show as far as season win total. Impressed me. I already mentioned Georgia just cemented being number 1. I'll have more spring game thoughts. I'm only halfway done. When I get through all 60, I'll have some major takeaways. Mike, Georgia looked amazing. You know what? I'll say disappointment. Texas, I think, has more holes than people are giving them credit for. The defense looked lost. I know everybody's talking headlines. Arch Manning looked great. They got more holes than I expected. So I'll say this: watching Oregon and Texas, I like Oregon as my number 3 team. So Georgia 1, Ohio State 2, Oregon over Texas as far as the third team. Because I don't know. I thought Oregon was pretty physical and just looked deeper than Texas. So there's that. Any thoughts? Did you catch any of those 2 teams, top 4 teams? Or
I caught a little bit of the Texas game, and then kind of read some of the reports there. And that kind of aligned a little bit with where I was heading this year with Texas, where I thought they sneakily lost a lot of premium talent off of last year's roster. I know they've been recruiting well and doing well in the portal, but also I wanted to ask you on the Texas one specifically. I know it's the spring game.
oh,
Do we see Arch at when do we, let me phrase it this way. What week of the season would we see Arch, man? Because I got to tell you, Quinn Ewers, he's had some up and down play throughout the year, and Arch looked about, I was shocked at again, spring game, all the qualifiers. From last year to this year, though, last year I was like, I didn't really see it. This year he cooked. So
yeah, he did. And they asked, I don't know if you picked up on this body language. I think non-communication is everything. They had Quinn Ewers. They interviewed him during the game, and they just asked an Arch Manning question to him. His body language is like, it wasn't good. You normally get that rah, rah, rah for your teammates and saying all the right things, being, Mr. Political Statesman. It was not good. I just put it that way.
Who's the Texas starting quarterback week 1?
Oh, it's Quinn Ewers.
Okay.
Now they got Michigan week 2, big noon kickoff. That was announced. We'll see that. I think Michigan's defense is a little bit better than people are giving it credit for. So I don't know. But I would say this: if you put up the prop, will Arch Manning start a game this year? I would bet the yes at this point. I'll put it that way. Not that he ultimately becomes a starter. I think he'll eventually start a game, and we'll go from there. Wow, that's saying something, because Quinn Ewers, I think right now, is with Carson Beck as the Heisman favorite. Do not bet Quinn Ewers to win the Heisman, as far as I'm concerned. Scrolling down, a couple Miami questions. Trevor and Bob in the chat as far as Miami. Miami's win total over 9 flat at DK. DK put up some win totals and had some disagreement with what's already out there in the market. Martinez from Oregon State, running back. They're going to get they've gotten a few other guys too. They're going all in.
I was going to say, they're like basically spending to a point where it's like, they just can't be bad. Like at some point, your roster has so much talent that it overwhelms bad coaching.
It's still Cristobal, a guy that literally cost them. A victory last year. Bob bet under 9.5 on Miami. I did too. If they go out and win 10 games, something they've only done one time in the last 20 years, one time have they won 10 games in a regular season. So be it. They beat me. I bet under 9.5. Again, it's a bet. I made like 60 of them already. I prefer that. But friend of the program, Bud Elliott, he's liking Miami. I can tell you that.
And we might have another head-to-head on this one.
You want to go head-to-head? I'll go head-to-head.
All right, let's go. Yeah, I'll take the over.
All right, good. Under. Yes, you got a pro Mario Cristobal position. Love it.
My Coach Prime and Cristobal, my two coaching college football legends.
Yeah, good job. Tailgate 10. Hey, he's in the chat. Love it. Thanks for watching, 10. You know how you get depth in college football? Recruit high school. Exactly. Again, I go back to it. What are the top programs doing? They are just filling in a little bit of holes here and there as far as the transfer portal. 5-6 guys a year. That's how you handle it. Other than that, recruit at a high level, develop the talent, pay the kids that are already on the roster. Michigan did that. Take care of the kids already on your roster. You don't have to be worrying about the portal. I'll say this. People that are focused on the portal right now, programs, they are not contenders, man. Nobody serious is fucking with the portal right now. Especially, the names out there are just depth guys.
Yeah.
Lost their left tackle to Missouri. Who lost their left tackle to Missouri? I don't know. Was their best offensive lineman. Bob, if you're still watching, I'd like to know who that was. I'm trying to think who lost to Missouri. That name escapes me right now. That program that did. Missouri is a team that's going. They're going all in for this year, which is
Yeah, they bought one of Michigan's big recruit linebackers that was a true freshman. Jumped in.
SMU. Yeah, he transferred, I believe, before spring though. Yeah, you're right though. But yeah, Missouri is going all in. That's a team that if I had to bet now, I would, and they got a pretty favorable schedule. I'd probably bet yes to the playoff for Missouri right now. I wouldn't lay a lot, but I think it's more likely than not that they've earned the playoff. That's saying something. Thoughts on a potential back-to-back LSU quarterback Heisman's? That's the one spring game I'm going to watch right after today's show. No,
I didn't watch it, but Nussmeier was
good.
Yeah, that was they did
All
lose
right.
just an insane amount of wide receiving talent.
Yeah, that worries me. They got the one kid from Liberty that's pretty good. Daniels?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm not going to say with new offensive coordinators and Brian Kelly, suddenly the quarterback whisperer like Lincoln Riley. I'm not buying that. Did I bet that? With that being said, I might have bet. I think one book had the stupid number on Nussmeier to win the Heisman. I think I might have bet it. No, I haven't yet. Yeah, I was thinking of somebody else. Looking at the chat, 250 to 1 for Preston Stone. Yeah, we both said 500 to 1 there. Blue Horseshoe. Yeah. Speaking of Blue Horseshoe, what'd you think of it looks like Hitman ended up actually physically making the bet. Caleb Williams. I get it from a points aspect. A lot of people don't understand that. You get the points, the reward point system in Caesars is pretty good. So
yeah. It's different to me. Like the draft, betting that on the draft is different than betting it on like a game outcome of like a college basketball game. Where, I mean, Caleb Williams, people have known Caleb Williams going number 1 for 4 months here, and especially in the last month or so, it's basically been all but rubber stamped, as opposed to a college basketball game where one team can shoot
15 threes. Yeah.
So I understand it more from that aspect.
RW fan in the chat, like the stream, need to put some more distance between us and forward progress. There we go. It's one thing to draft Bo Nix. It's completely odd to compare him to Patrick Mahomes. Speaking of that, I got one for you. You're gonna love this. This is a spring game takeaway. I don't know if it's the red jersey. I don't know if it's the number 15. I think they have the same quarterback whisperer coach in the offseason. And I don't know if it's like similar build, 6'3", 220-ish. He looked like Patrick Mahomes out there. Dylan Raiola for Nebraska.
I saw you saucing that at Nebraska. Yeah.
So obviously that's tongue in cheek a little bit there, but watch him. The way he throws, moves around a little bit, same number and everything. That I am buying the hype. We'll see. I hate their offensive coordinator Satterfield, but they were throwing the ball down the field almost every play. I loved it. So I was thinking I was going to be very anti-Nebraska again, and their win total is still ridiculous at 7.5. But they got a favorable schedule. They're going to a bowl game. They're ending that drought this year. I saw enough to say that confidently. Sam in the chat, Penn State over 9.5 minus 140. I did make that bet. Similar price too. Just schedule-wise, I think they're only going to be an underdog in the Buckeye game. That game's at home, so it's not a slam dunk loss. Wasn't wild with what I saw in the spring game though. Wasn't wild though last year, and they found a way to win 10 games. Michigan comes off the schedule. That's a bonus. I think it's another 10-win type of season, so over for me. Did you bet Penn State at all?
I haven't, but that's the way I'd lean it. I mean, if I was going to bet it, I'd bet the over. I agree with you. The schedule fell pretty favorably in terms of the teams that you'd want to play in the no Oregon, no Michigan. They get a lot of the conference I would call your bottom feeders that are going to be the easier games you'd want in the Big Ten, especially programs that I would not say are on the way up. They've got it pretty favorable there, where I think and they've just recruited enough talent kind of year over year where they don't have much of a drop off talent wise. So yeah, I think 10-2 is very reasonable for them.
Dane in the chat, Josh Allen and Riley Leonard after a good year in South Bend, number 1 pick. I'm not seeing that. He's got to get healthy. He wasn't healthy all spring.
I don't think he's that kind of talent either. Like I just don't think he's a
doesn't have the
#1
arm.
pick. Yeah.
They're going to be running him, I think. I think they like the quarterback room where they're confident. If he gets hurt, he gets hurt. Let's go ahead and run Riley Leonard. That's what I would do. FSU to make the playoff plus 164. I could see that. That was a team that I thought a little bit more positively on after watching their spring game. A lot more depth than I expected there. Not as much as last year's team, but if they stay injury free, that's a good team. They're starting 22 is going to be pretty good. I think Texas blows Michigan out of the water. I agree, Mike. I think you and I went head to head on that one. So I think I'm in.
I don't think
they're
not blowing them out of the water. They might win
the
game. They're not blowing them out of the water.
All right. I would agree with that. They'll win by 7, though. Matt in the chat, thoughts on Utah making the playoff? Yeah, I just watched them this morning. I think I got a lot of Big 12 games to get to, but I can't imagine me seeing a team that I think is better than Utah. Cam Rising looked the part. Just did. And Patrick in the chat says, Ken, 50-1 Heisman. I don't know if I'd bet that. I'd like to shop. The 2 books that usually offer a little bit better odds, Heisman, we'll see. They are out, Circa and Westgate. They book on some action, so hopefully nobody's betting that Cam Rising, and I can get a better number than that. But he looked good, man. They've thrown it down the field. He looked 100%. Utah is the Big 12 favorite right now for me. Did you see? I'm guessing you were glued to the Pac-12 network 2 weeks ago watching Utah spring game.
I haven't seen, but I saw your thread there. I agree. It's just price-wise, $350 to win the Big 12, $300 to make the play. Like, there's just not a lot drawing me to the prices that are out there on Utah. If you caught a rising, number, maybe if higher than 50, I don't hate that as far as a sprinkle. But I just, I feel like a lot of the Utah stuff is priced in right now. So for me, it's not drawing me to make. I agree with you that they should be the fave, but 3-1 in a conference where there's like 10 live teams, just isn't drawing me to the window there.
Agree. And not saying that I won't eventually get there, but I prefer some of those markets, June, July, when 10 or 12 books are up. I can really compare the prices. Let's let the portal close. Let's see if any grad transfers come in and out. Even Whittingham said he was going to take a couple guys. Even I just watched the spring game. He was looking to take a couple more guys. So let's let that market mature a little bit. I'll have a little bit more. We do have 4 months still, folks, before the season starts. Carlos in the chat, LSU over 9.5. I think that's about right. I'm going to watch him tonight. I'll let you know next week's show. Tease the next week. I'll have more thoughts on that. Virginia Tech, dark horse ACC team. Yeah, I could see that. They're a buyer for me. So over 7.5 is a bet that I made and a bet that I like. Haven't seen their spring game yet, but I talked about them in the bowl game. I started seeing some things at the end of last season that they were ready to take the next step. I like what they did in the portal. They got a good defensive tackle from Duke. They got a quarterback that if he stays healthy, he's a big kid. Yeah, certainly. I think, are they as good as Florida State or Clemson? No. Are they as good as Miami? No, but they're right there in the mix among the other teams. Heisman sports book for Julian Saying. I don't think I've seen that yet. I saw like 100 players listed.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Last look. I haven't seen Julian Saying yet. I think a lot of it has to do he was at Alabama in January and then transferred already to Ohio State. Aiden Childs Heisman. I'm not buying Michigan State. I can tell you that.
I'll book that one if you want. That's what I will book if you wanted that. Andrew, God, I hope you're go to the Sparty Lifer because
200-1 at Westgate. The last I saw there.
On Saying or Childs?
Childs.
I'd book you about. Yeah, you can book because I don't think a 4-8 team's gonna win the Heisman. So listen, no trolling. I like Jonathan Smith. They didn't really, outside of obviously getting Childs in and a couple of guys in the fall, they just lost their best defensive tackle, defensive lineman to the portal is going to, win NIL shopping. They didn't really have the big talent. And I know that's not the way Smith wants to build the program, so I agree with it. They didn't really have this big like talent boom in the portal. So think Michigan State's going to have quite a rough one this year. Like Jonathan Smith long term. This year, though, it's going to be a long year.
Might talk about them. Maybe. If not.
Are you more bullish on them than me?
No.
Oh, okay.
So they might be coming up on a show. So make sure you're watching. They might be featured in the show, and it won't be positive this offseason. Patrick Wilson, Virginia Tech 22-1 to win the ACC. Yeah, that's a decent bet. I haven't made that one yet. I'm waiting for the market to mature a little bit. We've never had conference odds available at this point. Usually that's a June or July market. So
circa Power 5 wins. I got the text today from a guy there.
11th? The 11th?
May 11th, yes.
Yes. That'll start the market will mature then after. That'll get bet into for a day or two. And then so 2 weeks from today, I think the 11th is a Saturday. So 2 weeks from today, that Monday, market will start opening up. Really opening up after they do their thing. G5, I will say this. People have not taken a stance on the G5 yet, which is a little bit surprising. Nobody's posted anything there. That's good for them because I'm not ready yet, really, to bet a ton of G5. I mean, are you? I mean, I haven't deep dived a ton of G5 teams yet.
No, if you're not, then if BP's not ready for the death, then I don't think there might be 3 people on earth that would be ready. So.
Yeah, maybe a month from now. Again, I would say the sweet spot is what it was when the Hall of Famers at the South Point were opening up the market Memorial Day weekend. I think that's especially now. That was before a transfer portal. Now you have a transfer portal.
Is the South Point? I haven't even heard one peep from them.
Honestly, on the app, they don't even have futures up yet. Like not even national title futures up yet. They have no college football market. Crazy. How the mighty have fallen.
Yeah.
Sorry. For about 5 or 6 years, they
really
were the originators of the offseason market. Yeah. They were.
Some people watching the show are probably too young to remember that now, but before Circa existed, they were kind of like the summer CFB market leader.
I mean, if you're really old, it was the Nugget in like 4th of July. So that's where the calendar, you used to be 4th of July. They'd open up like games of the year and whatnot. Then Andrews went to South Point, and this was like 10 years ago. Then they started opening up right around Memorial Day weekend, and I'd stand in line and they'd have a lot of stuff up, and it doesn't look like that's going to be the case anymore. Iowa over 7.5 wins, or Julian saying 25-1 circa. Wow. No, give me the no on that.
Yeah,
I didn't know they posted him. Iowa over 7.5 wins. I'm not an Iowa fan.
No, I'm gonna listen. I'm just gonna say it because if it was closer to the season, there's like, listen, I'm not gonna cry about missing a 750 if anybody wants to like put this in. The no minus 750 on Iowa playoff at FanDuel, I was legitimately going. If I could get the amount of if the season was tomorrow, I'd lay like 30 dimes on that. I'm not even joking. Like that's not being like hyperbolic. Like that team is not making the playoff number 1. And I know Deacon Hill is out. This could be enough. They have no depth at the quarterback. Like
they don't. If he gets banged up,
can't make it through like 30 minutes of the game time. So I mean, is he going to play 12 games? The guy's been hurt every year he's played football.
And I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't buy into this, but man, they were one of the more incredibly fortunate teams. I mean, statistically speaking, nobody in college football history had won as many games last year as Iowa did with that bad of an offense. I like betting against historical outliers, and that's one of them. So, hey, let the hype begin. I see one book went up to 8. Well, let's see how high this total goes. Under Iowa. Defense will be good again, but it always is good. Louisville under 8.5. Tons of losses in the trenches. Yeah, that's another team I'm going to get to in the next 24 hours. Concerned there. Maybe the NIL money isn't as good as what they thought. I do trust Braum, though, quite a bit. So, we'll see there. Right now, my instinct is leaning under on Louisville. Far exceeded expectations year 1. Usually, maybe a little bit of regression on year 2. Similar to what happened Lincoln Riley at USC. Exceeded it in year one, maybe back down a notch in year two. Trip, yep, South Point legendary. Onion Man, thoughts on Ole Miss and Dart Heisman? Yeah, somebody else asked. Yeah, it was Onion Man, 22-1. Yeah, I like that bet. I don't know. I did bet Dart to win the Heisman. I'll have
Really?
to see what I got. Yeah, I bet him. I think 25-1 maybe. So yeah, I made that bet. That's one of the 3 or 4 guys I bet. So look into that. I just think the hype's beginning, obviously. You got a very offensive friendly coach. Schedule's at least there for them to get off to like a 5-0, 6-0 start. And that's another program going all in. So yeah, I did bet Dart. There hasn't been like a Heisman bet that I made that I'm like, oh my God, this is the one. No, there usually is that 1 or 2 every offseason. I haven't felt that. Again, it's a market where 5 years ago, I probably could have found Dart 40-1, 50-1. Nico,
Right.
Ia Maliava. I think I actually did that right. Ia Maliava, yeah. At Tennessee's a brand new starting quarterback. I mean, I bet him, but it was like 30-1. Honestly, I would have gotten 80-1 on him like 3 years ago. Hendon Hooker, I got 80-1 at Tennessee. So that's another market that's kind of sucks. I mean, the great value is going away. Purdue under 4.5. I haven't watched them yet. Seems about right. I haven't bet that one yet. Second year, a new coach, they should make some strides. I will say, here's another one. They lost their top wide receiver. He went to Oklahoma.
Yeah.
I watched the Oklahoma spring game.
Oh,
That Deion Burks, he looked like the Bolitnikov winner. That's how good he looked. So that's a big loss for Purdue. You got any other thoughts? And then we'll get to the win total here.
No, I thought it was
we covered a lot. Yeah. Brady Cook 40-1 to win the Heisman. No, I'm not.
No, there's a couple other ones I'm not. Even Avery Johnson, I'm a no on. Of the ones you listed, Gabriel, the 10-1's a little short, but he's the one I could actually see putting up the big,
Your boy Dante Moore didn't look that good.
Oh man,
sorry, man.
I don't know what happened to him. I really thought when he coming out of high school, he was
that recruitment was weird though, man.
Yeah, he's gotten some bad
advice.
Yeah, I agree. And now
would have been better. He should just honestly should have went to Michigan. Being honest,
I agree because I think he'd be the starting quarterback this year.
Or Michigan. Well, I guess they got rid of the coach or Michigan State. But yeah, no, he should have stayed at home and went to Michigan.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. I really thought he was going to be the goods coming out, and it's trending.
Did Michigan really push for him? I think Harbaugh and company might have sniffed that out. That I don't know what we got here.
He did not like the old QB coach Matt Weiss, and they did not get on at all. And so it also he was wanting on some of that front money that Harbaugh wasn't too big on. So it never really got off the ground in terms of their recruitment together. So
fair enough. Trip in the chat. No on Louisville to make the playoff -500. Can't see the ACC getting more than 2 teams. Yeah, if they do get 2 teams, it's going to be Florida State, Clemson, big names. So yeah, I know they play at Notre Dame. Notre Dame's got revenge. I'll dive into Louisville tonight and see, since a lot of people are asking. You ready for the win total best bet? First one of the year.
Let me, I'm
better get them fired up. I will give everybody a fair chance. The best price, we'll quote the consensus price, but the best price on this team is at DraftKings. I don't know what you're going to be able to get down. I don't know. I'm betting through a burner, a beard type account there, and I'm getting decent limits in some of these college football markets. You don't have to scroll down too far, I don't think, if it's in alphabetical order. It's a spring game I just watched a couple days ago. We are going under a win total. We're going under 8.5 wins on Arizona. -170 we'll quote it at, but you can find -140 at DraftKings. Under 8.5 wins on Arizona.
Under 8.5 on Arizona.
Bet it. It'll start moving.
Give us the
handicap is this. I like betting against historical outliers. They just had their best season in a quarter century. New coach. I like the new coach, but I do think, at least as far as this season, it's a downgrade going from Jed Fish to Brett Brennan, who took a while to build up San Jose State, kind of built it the right way. So I think this year will be tough. I know they're moving to a new conference. I know everyone. I saw someone in the chat. Oh, I love Fafita and the combo of him and McMillan. Well, McMillan got hurt last week of spring practice. He didn't play in the spring game. And I don't know. It's a foot injury. Is he going to be the same this year? I'm not sure. I'll tell you what isn't the same. They lost about everybody depth wise. That they in their spring game they had like 50 guys. That's it. They literally the insider said they have to at minimum go out in the portal and get 10 or 15 guys. 10 or 15 guys to fill out the depth chart. I don't like that. The quality of players in the portal is not good. They lost a couple guys in the portal leading up to the spring game. Arizona State did as well. Then you look at the schedule. I think they're going to be an underdog in 4 of the 5 road games. So there's 4 right there. And you're expecting them to sweep the board at home against like Texas Techs of the world. I know they got a couple gimmies, maybe 3 or 4, but you're asking them to win 9 games. Something they've only done one time in the last, 20 years, and that was last year. So I'm going under 8.5 wins. We'll lay minus 170. That's a lot. A half win though is worth 70.
The juice is heavy, but I agree. I wouldn't get involved at 7.5 at 8.5 though. I agree. I mean, it's conference play. It wouldn't surprise me if they started out 0-3 at Kansas State, at Utah, Texas Tech. So
yeah, they could start. I mean, I said Utah's the favorite. The number 2 team right now is probably Kansas State. Texas Tech might be the 3rd best team.
And then, I mean, you've got
there's 3, and they're going to sweep the rest of the season.
Right.
No.
Right.
At UCF.
Yeah.
I mean, West Virginia is going to be a good team. I mean, no, man, that's
right.
That's when I watched this spring game. I'm like, what the? I'm like, I know a lot of guys were hurt now, but I'm like, this is not a 9-win team at all this year. You're expecting to see. I know people rest guys and whatnot, but they are priced as a clear-cut top 20, top 25 team right now with a win total 8.5 with that schedule, and they're not this year. There's not. So under 8.5. Love that bet. As soon as right after the game was over, I went and bet it. So I've only done that with one game so far.
I like it a lot. You did a nice sell job, good explanation, and I'm in. So hey, that's why you watch the show, folks. Because I don't think we'll see 8.5 next week when the big dog over at Circuit Open. I'll say that.
No, they'll take some positions though. We'll see. I kudos to Circa that they'll have their own numbers. So I'm anxious to see what's different. I'm glad that they'll take some positions there, but the market's been out for a while.
Flat number, like the DKs and the fan always do the hook, so you get a result one way. Circle takes some where you're getting like a flat 7, a flat 8, and then adjust accordingly. So that makes a little bit of a difference in terms of where you're playing. So
Ryan never saw it on DraftKings. Again, minus 170. I mean, it's available. I don't know. Maybe everybody hit it. FanDuel at it. Willie Hill, Caesars, 365, Bet Online, ESPN, MGM. A bunch of them are up. I don't know how much they've changed, but
I'm staring at it at FanDuel right now. It's still minus 170 under 8.5. So if you got a FanDuel, you can go.
That's
I'm
still
good
good.
As we speak.
Still good. I think Word will get out their depth issues. I don't think a lot of people are watching. Their spring game just happened on Saturday night, so I think Word will start getting out on that. That's pretty much the Coochie bets. I like that. Took it at both MGM and FanDuel minus 170. Like it. Any closing thoughts, man? Got one win total in the books.
I was going to say.
I already got next week's. I think you're going to agree. I already got next week's in mind.
Michigan 10.5, baby. Yeah, that's easy. I'm in that. The Canada versus there. So yeah, I wasn't gonna let that 10. It's still actually 10.5 there. But
what's 10.5?
The Michigan game of the year line versus Ohio State.
Oh, we didn't even talk about that. Hey man, I was just looking out for you when we made that bet. I told you. Did I not tell you that was going to go to double digits?
Yeah, fair. I'll give you the props there. It went to 10.5, and so I said, I'm not gonna not let that. BP's gonna quote me. I'm not gonna bet some 10. You think I won't double down? No, sir.
I got it at 7. I was trying to help you, bud. I was like, but you're gonna get a better number. I'd hold on.
Well, so now I'm in at 7.5 and 10.5, and if it get hopefully, unless Michigan's quarterback situation gets it straightened out, I might get 14.5. So we'll see.
Yeah. I told you, and I'm not saying it to blow smoke up your ass. I thought Michigan was better than I expected. Everyone, like I read my Twitter timeline because I was at Notre Dame when their game was going on. I'm like, holy shit, this must be a terrible spring game. I watched them, like, they look fine. They look about how I thought they were.
The Rodmore injury hurts because I thought the defense could be, number one in America material again. I don't know. You're gonna see. We just talked about, Ewers and Arch.
They got to see a few secondary.
Yeah, you're gonna see a few different Michigan quarterbacks play this season. I would almost guarantee it.
Yeah, I don't know. How do they keep pace with like a Texas?
That's a good question. I mean, I think you're going to see even more. Remember the old Penn State game last year, where run it 30 straight times. Yeah. I think you better get ready for a lot of that if you're a Michigan fan.
I will say, to your Buckeye bet, the way the Buckeyes are going offensively plays more in your hands. I mean, we're getting a Woody versus Bo type of matchup.
I'll never, if I was in the building as an Ohio State fan, like that CJ Stroud offense was freaking awesome. Like that offenses they had under them were so great. And last year, if they had that type of offense, they might have won the national championship. So I
very close to winning against you. Do they forget they were a missed kick away from Marvin Harrison getting hurt, concussed away from probably winning the title?
They would have won the national title if one that without that targeting, and two with the net, and then they switched the entire offensive philosophy.
Just because of some losses against your rival. I get it.
It's 100% that. It's they got out man-balled and said, we got to go to that. And now I don't think.
You put CJ Stroud on last year's. Let's just go to the Michigan game last year. You put CJ Stroud just in that offense to win. They beat Michigan.
Yeah, for sure.
Wow. That is the man, the myth, the legend himself, Joey Knish. Guys, we will be doing this every Monday from this point forward, all the way up until the season. Then we'll start doing two shows a week. But for Joey Knish, for Jason C., you did a really good job filling in for Zach Phillips. I'm merely Brad Powers. Thanks to all you guys who commented and watched. You just watched Hit the Books, part of the Hammer Betting Network. See you next week.